Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy. Nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings,
And ourselves.
we stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love.
And listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will find peace in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this shining world. He was among us in every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find, with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts, together we can grow a better place, with love in us all. And you will find, together we can save it all. And you will find a place called home, where every
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear at 82. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device. We'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin' IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much RAM. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
"32 artists from different genres, from all corners of the globe. We're internationally known. Do it. Don't be scared. It's just a wag, baby."
Guess what? We're full, baby. The wag is going to go down now. It is. We have our 32 picked, chosen, and told. Welcome to the wag.
Four, three, two, one.
32 artists from different genres, from all corners of the globe. We're internationally known.
Show up and he'll take care of the rest.
Don't be scared. It's just a wag, baby.
We're doing Siren Forum for participants and for the judges. We are only doing 32 waggers this time. We're cutting it, man. So you make pace that cut, then you gotta make a pace first round.
Are you signed up yet? Do it. Don't be scared. It's just a wag, baby. Do it. Don't be scared. It's just a wag, baby.
What say you just 32 only. Sign up ASAP at What's a Genre?
Genre hoedown.
No. It's What's a Genre Showdown. Sign up. A Siren Forum for participants and for the judges. We're going to do this right this time.
Everybody wants to join. Everybody wants to join the What's Your Genre Showdown. Everybody wants to join. Everybody wants to join the What's Your Genre Showdown.
Oh, don't be scared. It's just another Thursday.
Just another one. Coming right at you every week.
Where we talk some shh. IT.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, and tonight we got a mixed bag. We're just getting through round three. We've got four songs, two mashups. It's getting down to the nitty gritty with the WAG, and we looked last week at pop and funk because that's the two mashups that we're going to be getting to tonight.
Yep.
But after we get done taking a listen to those, it's Drum Night Part 2.
Drums.
Let me
Gotta do the drums.
let me bring in our IT screen.
There he is.
And we'll do a bit of this. Glad your head's too big. And let's see what we're going to take a look at after the WAG tracks here. To start, why I wanted to do this drum night, our friend over on BandLab, UnicorMaidFrankenstein, been playing. Yeah, Uni's been playing around with HTML5 and putting together an app that's really creative at approaching to drums in a different way than we're used to. Usually we're either punching drums in a step sequencer, or what we're going to be looking at after, finger banging, virtual pads. There's a lot of different ways to make drums these days. And tonight's episode is going to start to look at some of those ways. We're probably going to do a couple of drum nights. I'd like to get into some beat making topics. We're going to be dealing with percussion for a good chunk of March. But we're going to take a look at this drum circle, which reminds me of Drum Monkey. We had looked at it last year, and it was one of those drum programs that takes that circular approach, and you start to think in drum loops, and you start thinking about like which drums are hitting where. And I find it so easy to like get going with this kind of approach.
Yeah, it reminds me of two things. One was the on GarageBand, the way the loops, like if you put loops in there, they would play around in a circle like that, so that you would have, when it's a quarter of the way done, halfway done, because you can just see the sweep of the hand going around, so that you know. The other was a video we saw some time ago where somebody basically made their thesis about this, and it was about breaking down specific beats. Though it wasn't about using it as a tool to make beats.
That's okay. That's the other one that I remember from last year.
I remember we did that at some point.
Yeah, and he had them nice and color coded and showed like.
And I remember Funky Drummer was one of them, and that's what blew my mind, because I'm looking at just the way it lays out, and it's like, wait, what? That sounds like that, and then you got to like watch it and listen to it at the same time, and it starts to make sense. But
yeah. Taking this approach helps me when it comes to the weird times and things like that. Really, I start to visualize timing in a clock sort of way.
Oh yeah, it's very helpful in that way. And I like the layout. I like the way it's got the separate volume sliders for each of the different pieces. I mean, there's a lot of good things about what's going on there.
Yeah, what's cool is it works in the browser. Like nothing to install, just fire up your browser.
Yep, very cool.
So after we look at that, we're going to get into some of the finger drumming. That's been one that I've had traditional drummers, and I've had the finger bangers over in the Zoom, and we've actually gotten into some spicy debates about whether finger banging can compete with stick banging, and we're going to see examples where you can accomplish the same thing in different ways.
And then there's programming too. Like you don't have to hit anything, technically.
Yeah. And actually, it's going to get interesting when we get to some of these other videos where there's one where he literally hits nothing.
I like that. That's a good one.
So we're going to get an introduction into approaching finger drumming, and then we're going to slide over to Tatro, because he's one of the best sources when it comes to approaches to doing it, and he's going to get a little more in depth into how to start like getting comfortable with it, and he's going to be showing it with the Akai MPK, which is one of the instruments that tonight I wanted to kind of spotlight a little bit, and Tetro does it perfectly. This is one of the most popular mini MIDI controllers that give you awesome pads, excellent response. This is a worthy consideration if you do want to get into pad drumming. But if you're not sure if the Akai is the way to go, um, Patrick's going to actually show us the difference between the Arturia Mini Lab and the Akai. These two, head to head in features and comparison, you really can't go wrong with either one. They just take a slightly different approach to how they deal with the pad part of things.
Right. Very cool. I've seen a few different ones, and again, a lot of times it comes down to, you know, this keyboard that I have hooked up. It's the little chiclet keys, which are really annoying to try to do because they're really small. And when you get to the good sized pads, like we'll look at it later, but the Axiom has good sized pads that are similar to the ones they're looking at there.
And I wish I had found some on the Axiom, because that would be another one that I would put into that list of they're all under $100. They give you a decent keyboard to work with along with the pads. And as you're going to see, like, the keyboard does serve a purpose in finger banging. It's not enough just to have the pads.
So it's got the pads up on here. So it's got
those are nice pads.
Yeah, they have a good solid feel to them, and they're a good size so that they can, you know, you can really smack on those.
So after we take a look at, you know, these microcontrollers and options there, John Paul is gonna show a kind of a different way of using this equipment, where it's a little more of a loop mentality, which when it comes to putting together drums, a good looper complements a good drum set, and you can build your beats really quick if you've got the right equipment. He's going to be showing the RC505 and the 600 looper, which I've gotten to play around with that with Slither Joe, and he has both of those. They're incredible pieces of gear.
Oh yeah, I have the earlier one was the RC300, I want to say, and before that there was the RC30. So there's been a few of them that, you know, getting comfortable with how to do the looping and getting comfortable with how to build the loops is helpful. And then when you build into one of those larger ones, you can really get, you know, different layers built up and all that. It really stretches out.
What's great with all of those RC series, they all use the same drum engine, so you get the same quality drum sounds on all of them.
Yep. Good stuff.
So then we're going to slide over to Samus. You remember last year, like we looked at this channel last year a couple of times when we were doing different drum things. And that night where we had like the weird drum controllers, a couple of different air drums, basically. And of all of them, the Aero Band was the one that really entices me. I want a pair, and seeing him use them just reinforces that, like, you know, this would be something fun to play with, because he's a real drummer. I mean, his channel is chock full of like drum advice for natural drums, but the fact that he got comfortable with this and can rip on it.
Nice.
And he's not hitting anything.
It's all about where you're kind of programming. If it's the way I believe it is, you're kind of programming where the drum head would be. And you're just saying, okay, if I just stop there, it means it's going to be this sound. If it's over here, it's going to be that sound. And that way you can program and just do fills, you know, right down, knowing where each of those hit spots is in space in front of you.
Yeah. And the one thing when it comes to those different air drum approaches, the kick pedals, which is why I put the next video in. This shows now you probably wouldn't be using this with like the Aero drums. The Aero drums come with these little, you know, clickety pedals.
They remind me of
But
castanets, but like for the
yeah,
feet, right?
yeah. These actually look and feel more like your traditional pedals you would be playing with on a drum, except they're hitting MIDI triggers.
Right.
And um, this and the last video are to kind of lead us towards the next drum night that we're going to talk about, where we get into actual electronic kits, because that I feel deserves a whole evening to look at. But this and this last one is a great warm up to get us ready for electronic kits,
Nice.
because what's going on with Zildjian and these cymbals, game changing for electronic drums.
Nice.
This is one of the coolest things to I've ever seen for electronic drums. The last frontier, where you finally get real cymbal feel, real cymbal action, but it is a MIDI controller. What Zildjian has done is meshed the metal cymbal with actual controllers all over it that will really change. Tomorrow's drummers are likely to prefer an E-kit.
Nice. And not just because it's easier to break down and set up.
Yeah, we've come a long way, baby.
Sound guy already prefers it because it's only one output instead of having to mic up all the drums.
Yeah, and that's the main reason why a lot of drummers would want to start considering it, because when you're making drums in the studio these days, they want the triggers along with the acoustic drum sample. They want the MIDI. And if you don't give them the MIDI, they're still going to take what you did and convert it to MIDI because they want to fatten up the sound.
Yep.
So looking at this drum circle that Uni built, I put the link in the description. So anybody who wants to play with it, check in the description. Go take a look at it. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to sign in or sign up for anything. It's just a nice little app that you can experiment with. And the way he's got it set up, you can pick your timing. I'll start with the 4/4 because that's where all drums start. And you kind of pick the drums that you want and decide, where you're going to put them in the circle. Kind of establish a beat here. And then we hit start. Now he does have this little crash symbol. What is that?
Yeah, that's crash.
So the crash you can kind of hit manually whenever you want. It's tricky, especially because I'm remoting to it. Like, oh, my timing sucks. But you can adjust the volumes on the individual drums. You want to pull back like your snare a little bit.
That's the part I like the best. Yeah.
Yeah, you can speed it up. Now it confused me a little bit because I see the number go down, but I feel the BPM go up. And I think when you're doing this, it's starting to give it a little more swing.
It does feel like it, yeah.
But it's pretty easy to follow. And, if you want to get comfortable with different timings. Now, did that timing change? Let me do like a really weird timing. He's got some weird ones in here. 9/4, Maniac.
Now, would the 9/4 mean that you have 9 places to put things around the circle?
Yeah, and I think when you do change the timings, you might want to rebuild your circle. But now we're in 9/4. I'm gonna throw something weird in there, see how it. Feel like I could be doing a reggae song or something.
You should be able to get 9 quarter notes in to a 4-beat measure.
We'll kind of do it like a metronome here. Probably should use the sticks, but
it's good for an example, though.
Yeah, I want to hear the dynamic change.
It does seem like it swings at the end there.
Yeah, well, I've got that, and I've got this. We'll go back to 25 here.
Mm-hmm.
So I like what he's doing, and this is a great way to start experimenting with it. Some things that I would like to see, like grid snapping would be useful. When you do change the times, it'd be great to see like a line, which I kind of do see it. I see it on the actual restream one. My remote screen doesn't show me the lines. Like there's a star here, right? You see the star?
Pattern. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's why I'm on my remote. I'm getting dots. But
now, do you see with the star down at the bottom, like the top one is on the star point? The second one's on the star, like going around. If everything was on the star point, that would get you 9, I think, going around.
Okay, so if I use those as a reference. I'm trying to move it on the wrong screen. I pulled an Ange.
And I think you're going to need one more element you have to add in then, because we only had 8.
And we'll make it consistent here. Okay, did that get?
And like if you were talking about a snap to grid, it would be something where it would basically take all of those elements and just snap them to exactly right on the points all the way.
Yeah. Like a little checkbox that when I have snap turned on, if I drop it in this general area, it'll just go right to the. It's like quantizing.
Yep.
And it is working.
Mm-hmm.
That one, if we go
no, what I would do is I would take out the like coming around from the top. You get the kick, snare, and then I would change that next one to the sticks, and then snare, sticks.
So this one in the top right here.
No, bottom, the one opposite where the line's pointing right now. So like bottom right, and then.
So this one.
Sure, that'll work. Just so you can kind of hear the difference. I was thinking the one before it, and it would be like you'll hear like there's 2 snare, and then that one. You'd hear like 2 snare, and then the sticks, and then 2 snares, and then sticks again.
Oh, I got you. There it is.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh,
it's 9/4 time.
Let's go even slower.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no! Now it's going faster when I go down. Oh, that's
right.
Interesting. So
it's more of instead of timing, it might just be more of a speed. It's like speed factor to 100 or 0.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to ask him about that.
That way you can hear the individual divisions better.
Yeah, it is a cool way to just kind of get familiar with timing and hits. And
what if you get that last stick hit out just so that it stays empty, so that we have it adds that hesitation, like the flat tire. And that's the thing, is you can experiment with it and try out different combinations and all that and see how different things play together.
Look, Ma, I'm playing in 9/4.
With 2 snare hits, 3 stick hits, and a kick.
Hey, nobody said it was going to be easy.
Yeah. But you got it.
Oh, that's a fun app. So anybody out there interested in trying this approach, the link's in the description. Uni's got it out there. He's taking feedback, and I got some ideas. I love that. I know an HTML5 programmer now.
Good stuff.
Yeah, he might get me back into programming. I'd like to dabble with some of this code.
You can do some good stuff with it.
Yeah, being able to make some musical programs would definitely be fun. Thank you, Uni, for turning me on to that. You get an export to MIDI option in there, and I can use something like this because, like, getting a little MIDI loop, once you do have your circle, exporting a nice little MIDI loop can start creating beats from.
Nice.
And I might be able to help him with that when it comes to the sound API and exporting these into MIDI. Is I don't want to say it's easy, but it's not hard.
All right.
Yeah.
Little project.
I will reach out to you, Uni, and see if we can get that to export some MIDI.
Nice.
So now we've got a couple of songs to listen to. We've got our round 3 mashups. Let's blow this up. And we've got 4 songs, 2 mashups. So the first 2 that we're going to listen to are going to be coming from Unfantastic Android and RJS. They've got their pop song, and Pinky Chew and Maria Perdomo have their pop song. And like the last pop challenge, it's hard to define pop. You don't always feel like you're hearing what you expect pop to be when you first hear it. Pop has to, like, kind of grow on you and catch the listener's ear to become the popular sound on the radio.
Sure.
These have some interesting little earworms. So the potential for pop is there.
Nice.
And then we're going to slide to the other genre we talked about last week. This one is a neck and necker. You've got 2 different kinds of funk here, but they're both good funk from different approaches in the 70s. So the funk tracks will take you back.
Nice.
Let's get the first track loaded here, which will be the Unfantastic and Tonal Android.
For the pop category.
Here we go. So this is Mashup 1, Team 1 for round 3. Look, I'm doing math too.
Round 3, fight.
All right, I'm gonna do this one more time. Here we go. You stay with me. To get this, I have to get this nailed down. So 1, 2, 3. Are you ready? Here we go again. Oh, come with the rhythm. If you wanna see what I have in my my inside.
And I say to myself, what a wonderful way, a wonderful way. Oh, what a day you and I we had today. Oh, that's all that I can say. Oh, my girl, darling, won't you stay? Would have done the other way.
Alright, but you can see what this is about. Yeah, you know it's about me being out there, by myself, but not alone, no. There was someone there. It was you, my girl. We were there together. As I met you, I was saved.
And I say, wouldn't wanna have it any other way. It's been such a nice day. So I can say, my darling, oh, what a day. It's the only way. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, it's not much more to say than that I was there. We had a good day. Oh, and the only thing I can do now is
Oh, that's like some Australian pop coming from RJS there, with some help from Tonal on the UK side.
All right. There you go.
And as we know with like RJS, he found a good way to get some of that like guitar sound he does into a more poppy kind of beat.
Yeah. And that nice, laid back, mellow, kind of infectious kind of a sound to it.
Well, yeah, the horns kind of made me feel like I want to be on a cruise ship.
There you go. Nice. Little vacation time.
So that was our team one. For team two, we had Pinky Chew and Maria Perdomo, both really experimental artists. Another interesting mashup because they've been paired with everybody else that they've gone against. To finally see these two come together, I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. They both have that same kind of experimental creativity, and for pop, that's a good characteristic to have.
Absolutely.
So here's what they did. So that was Pinky Chew's and Maria Perdomo's pop track. Nice ambient sound, huh? That's ambient pop. Damn it, pop. I said move. Oh,
You did, but
what?
that's because I moved it. I moved it too. And I think you're remoting, so I move it and then you move it back and say no. Stay.
It's like Pop Goes the Weasel.
But at least it was just you and Pop, and like I was still just hanging out over here doing my thing. All good. But yes, that was excellent. I like the like you said, the ethereal nature of it, you know, and the fact that it's not, you know, not overpowering with a bunch of the stuff. It's just got the good the vocals, the way that they kind of go together like that. Very nice.
That the instrument choices right from the beginning, like that Kodo kind of sound. Love hearing that get used that way. Kind of sets the mood, and hearing Maria and Pinky sing together, oh, that's a treat.
Exactly. Very, very nice.
Yeah, when I thought of like, you know, is this pop? I thought like Enya style, like ambient Enya style pop. It's a form of pop where like the fans are fanatical. You know, they don't have a lot of fans, but they have devoted fans in that genre.
Yeah. It was good reason. I mean, like you said, it's one of those sounds that can just kind of grab you and take you on a trip.
Yeah, that one would work great in like soundtrack material, especially with the way the drums like echoed the way they did. That's the kind of sound that you can use in background music on a show.
Oh, absolutely.
Great job they did.
Yep, very good for the pop. Choices.
Now we're gonna get funky.
The funk.
Nice. And like I said, this one is a neck and necker. I guess it's going to depend on what kind of funk you like. You know, with the different judges we have, I can see like one judge liking this kind of funk and another judge really getting into this kind of funk. Here you have two different flavors of the 70s.
And it's all good.
Yeah. Well, and their talent all across the board here. So the first one is with Matt J.H. and Christine Rebecca Sweet. This one is more of the traditional 70s funk. You know, it's got all the elements that mid 70s you'd hear on the radio.
Nice. A couple of the bands we work with do a bunch of funk tunes, so I definitely enjoy the style.
Oh, and I enjoy these artists.
That too.
Spinning around like some sick excitation. Ain't no room for misinterpretation. Come on. Well, we're here and on short on patience. The movie gripping with elation. With the beat well into the cadence. Room for some time exploration. Feeling alive, it's an invitation. Come on. Well, we're here and running short on patience. The mood
bonus points for shaking booty.
Indeed.
Can't have funk. Can't have funk without some booty shaking.
That's right. It is required.
See, and that's why that one like feels like for me like that middle 70s kind of funk because shake, 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 shake. I grew up on that.
Yep. Now, were you at the roller rink at that point or what?
A few years later, yes.
There you go. Very good. Very infectious groove. Very much on the mark for funk. Good stuff all around.
Yeah, and great vocal work between both of them. Good way to pick and choose their places vocally to hit that. And the bass when it comes to funk,
Bass is
that bass is that's what funk does.
And a tasteful amount too. It wasn't over the top in your face because some people they'll take that bass and just go crazy with it and put it at 182%. But that was tasteful, right in the middle, right in the pocket. Very nice.
Yeah. Like we saw last week when it came to funk and how the bass is so important in it. It's not about turning it up loud. It's about making sure it's in the lead pocket. Just like with rock, you want that guitar to be in the lead. With funk, the bass is kind of the lead.
And the idea there is also like having something that's similar enough so that it's got that repetitiveness to it, but the little difference now and then so that it's interesting, so that it's not just the same 5 notes over and over or whatever. So that's where you get that nice balance and it makes it nice.
Yeah, and it passed the toe tapping test.
It sure did.
I tapped the whole time. So now for the Team 2 mashup on the funk. This is more of like a funk rock approach. Here, I really feel like I'm hearing a new Jimi Hendrix song. It really gets into that early 70s when funk was just trying to figure itself out. And Jimmy was just doing everything crazy that led to some of these kinds of funky grooves. So here we're going to go back a couple of years earlier into the 70s in the groove.
Nice. More funk.
Please.
Pretty please.
Sitting on the ground playing by myself, I looked up and I saw it. Shiny silver strings staring down at me with a hacked off beat. Started strumming from the first note I was drawn in. Boy, would you like to play guitar? I can show you the way. Come to me and listen closely. Allow me to introduce Jimmy. He dropped the needle on his turning wheel. Cranked up a dial. I'm hearing colors. As I look for the days that you rock my world, never gonna look down, we're so high now. Ready to go, come to be my number one. Life's always the way forever. It was so long ago, I was sitting on the couch thinking to myself, I remembered I wanted. Turning silver strings like a royal decree. You sold on to me, I started strumming. From the first note I was drawn in. I remember. Boy, would you like to play guitar? I can show we don't see you. Can you hear my colors? As I look for the days that you rock my world, never gonna look down, we're so high now. When it's a go, come to me, my number one. Let's always go away forever. As I look for the days that you rock my world, never gonna look down, we're so high now. Where's that go? Come to me, my number one. Let's always go away forever.
Oh ho ho! You see what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Oh no! It's mine.
Got you again. No, very cool, very cool. I see what you're saying with that early Hendrix style. I was also hearing like tone wise, like some early Pink Floyd, like almost CMLE play kind of time frame in terms of the sound. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Well, his strategic like guitar stabs and the little like effects that he added to it. Again with funk, certain elements like that, a little bit of psychedelics goes a long way with funk.
oh yeah, and the
The
little hitch in the timing, I
pedigrees.
really like that too. You know, so it's not always just the same like over and over like that little bang, that little pause in the timing definitely gets everything going. Like it might mess with the dancers on the dance floor, but that's okay.
Hey, I'd love to see some dancers dancing to
Oh yeah,
that.
oh they would do fine, I'm sure. Very good stuff. I love
The-
all of tonight's songs. Were very cool, very well
yeah,
done. Good stuff.
yeah, and the toe tapping on that one, I swear I'm going to put a hole in this concrete floor.
Yep, yep. And I see the kitty liked it too.
Oh yeah, yeah, she's funky. So like I said, that one tough mashup, tough close match. I think your preference of funk is like the thing to decide there because they both come at it from different directions and they both give it all the funk.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that one was Static and Mavi for
Hmm.
Team Two. We're going to be tallying up tomorrow night, midnight. If you haven't gotten to the Band Lab tracks, they're in the description. Uh, Give a like to those ones you like because the points add up every 50. And tomorrow night at midnight, I'm going to tally up the scores, see where we are with round three, and round four is coming.
Round 4 coming soon.
Oh, that's very Street Fighter of you.
Round 4 fight.
No, you got to say four, four, four,
Four.
four.
Finger drumming.
Now, these won't just be in 4/4. Some of these might be in other timings, but finger drummers, um, I would venture to say nowadays there's as many finger drummers as there are stick drummers, possibly more. I think that this approach especially in the last 10, 15 years has kind of taken over where sticks left off. And
Mhm.
today's equipment, we're going to look at some of the different options there and how to approach it. I think this is a good entry point for people who do want to play drums, don't have the room, don't necessarily want to make noise that wakes up the whole house. This is the way to put together like beats in a tiny little package.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's one thing is with the plastic, like the plastic home drum kits, like the cymbals, that they're not quiet, right? Like that's not particularly quiet. I mean, it's quiet enough where it's not, not as loud as a cymbal would be with me hitting it that hard. But if you're just doing a drum beat, if someone's walking by your door, like they're going to hear that for sure.
Well, it's like if you heard somebody using a practice pad, back in the days.
Exactly. Probably a little bit louder than a practice pad, even because these are a little bit harder rubber, I guess. It's more like a plastic and rubber kind of together. But this is one of the cheaper ones anyway. But we were going to talk about ones that like the differences that mesh heads will make. Like there's a lot of different things that can be done to make these things better. And at the end, we're going to be talking about the Zildjian stuff, right? The stuff that's going to be game changing. That
stuff is really interesting. But to get started at Aspire over on YouTube, I like this as an introductory into somebody who is just starting out, considering to finger drum. And what he does is he just, gives you a good guide on what to consider for equipment, considerations in like, pattern approach and not all controllers take the same approach. Some take the 4x4 kind of grid. Some do it across. Some of these controllers you're going to see, they're hybrids where they're keyboards with some drum pads on top of them. And as you're going to see in the next couple of videos, those are really popular because every key is a drum and every pad is a drum.
Yeah. A lot of options there.
Once you get comfortable with mapping things and you can set up which drum you want and which finger, you kind of have almost the same advantage as like a drummer with a full kit.
Nice.
It's just getting comfortable with, the rhythm and the flow.
Yeah. Let's check it out.
Let's get comfortable with finger banging, which is what I like to call it.
In this video, we will learn the basics of how to finger drum, starting first by explaining what it is and how it can help you as a music maker, to going over what equipment you'll need and how to set it up, and then finally ending by going through the learning process, where I'll cover tips and tricks that will help set you on your way to becoming a finger drumming master. Hello there, my inspirations. My name is Asper, and in this video, we're gonna learn how to finger drum. Now, finger drumming is the practice of playing audio samples on a set of physical buttons with your fingers. This is done with the help of two major components, hardware and software. First, let's talk about hardware. In order to press buttons with your fingers, you'll need something to press. This comes in the form of a MIDI controller. Specifically, you'll be looking into a MIDI controller that has some sort of a button grid, and these buttons are known as pads. In this video, I will be using a Hercules P32 DJ controller. After playing around with it a bit, I can personally testify the pads feel sturdy and natural to the touch, and I would recommend you pick it up for yourself if you're looking for a finger drumming controller. A link will be in the description below if you want to check out this controller for yourself and follow along with this video. Now, on to software. While we do live in a golden era of the music industry where MIDI controllers are smarter and more powerful than ever, unfortunately, your controller can't quite live up to its full potential without using some sort of software to communicate with it. In our case, this is how we'll virtually assign audio files, or samples, to each corresponding pad on our controller. This is where the magic happens, and you see how finger drumming starts to diverge from your average everyday drum kit. We have the flexibility to move and rearrange samples to our liking. Want to replace your snare with some sort of irrelevant meme?
Creeper. Oh man.
The Hercules P32 DJ controller will come with an application called D-Juiced, which is perfect for live DJ performances and can be used for finger drumming. However, it's worth noting that if you have any experience with a DAW, you can use that alongside your controller. For example, I will be using Ableton Live in this video for a little bit, since that's a piece of software I'm familiar with. At the end of the day, the software will be used to assign our samples to our controller, so I'd just recommend using whatever you're most comfortable with. So, after you've acquired your hardware and downloaded your software, the next step is to go hunting for some drum samples. The internet is a plentiful and boundless resource for samples. I'd recommend you do a little digging on your own and search for drum samples in the genre of music you most enjoy or want to play. If future bass is your jam, look up future bass kicks. If you like trap, then look into downloading trap drum loops. If you want something more authentic, consider looking into acoustic percussion samples. Use your best judgment when searching for samples. Don't trust sketchy sites, whatnot. The internet rules apply here, you know? But getting your hands on higher quality samples will ultimately step up your finger drumming game. Once you have your samples, it might be a good idea to put all your audio files in one folder on your computer for easy access and organization. We will be using this folder to drag and drop samples onto our pads in our software. So let's go ahead and do that now. Open up D-Juiced or the DAW of your choice and plug in your controller. In D-Juiced, you can find your sampler for the left and right grids of pads right here. If you don't see this view by default, you can click the drop-down menu in the top left corner of the application and select any view that contains the word sampler. This is the virtual representation of the physical buttons on your controller. You can quickly navigate to the directory you stored your samples in by going to the library at the bottom and finding the folder you created. At this point, you can drag audio files into your sampler, and pressing the button that lit up on your controller should play audio. Your samples can play in different modes, and I believe by default these samples should loop. If you find your sample is looping and want it to stop, hold down the shift button next to your pads and press your button again. While this mode is very cool and useful when performing live, this may not be what you want for a finger drumming session. You can change the mode of a single sample by clicking this gear icon on your sampler and then selecting your sample. Clicking the type drop-down menu will show different modes the sample can be in. Let's select trigger, so when we press the button, the sample plays once and only once, and will play from the beginning when we press it again. If you'd like to change the default mode of all new samples that are dragged onto your sampler, you can scroll down in the summary panel of the sampler settings window until you see default drop. Let's also set this to be trigger, so all newly added samples will behave the same way. Feel free to experiment with the modes of your samples. This can make for an interesting and unique experience if you have, say, gated samples or an underlying loop. If you are using a DAW such as Ableton Live, you can set up your controller by creating a MIDI layer and assigning a drum rack to that layer, also being sure to arm your track for recording to receive MIDI input from your hardware. At this point, you can assign samples to your drum rack, which correspond to your pads. Each software will be slightly different in terms of the interface, but again, ultimately, they all accomplish the same goal of just powering our controller by holding our audio samples. So, now that our controller and software is set up, the next thing to do is consider your pad layout. And by this, I mean which types of drum samples to put on which buttons. While some people argue certain layouts are better than others, and they have their reasons for believing that, at the end of the day, it's for you to decide which layout is best for you. Ultimately, it doesn't make sense to arrange your drums in a fashion that isn't intuitive for you. So this is where you can experiment and play around with the different layouts. After doing some digging of my own and watching other finger drumming tutorials, I've found this is a layout that came naturally to me, so I decided to stick with it. Next, we're on to the fun part, which is actually finger drumming. It can be tough just starting off to get the hang of performing with both hands. So the first tip I'll share with you is to start slow. If you have a drum beat in mind, dissect that into its simplest form, usually just as a kick and a snare. Strip away any complicated bits such as subtle hi-hats or any offbeat percussion, and just start by practicing your kick and snare. It may sound dumb, but if you're just starting off, practicing just a kick and snare loop by itself over and over and over again will ultimately make you a better finger drummer. Remember to stay on beat. If you find it difficult to keep a consistent pattern, it may be a good idea to play alongside a metronome. Similarly, it may be a good idea to start with a slower BPM and work your way up. This way you can buy more time to focus on memorizing the pattern you have laid out in front of you. After you play that on repeat, eventually it'll just become muscle memory, and you can start throwing more elements into the mix more easily. I found a fun exercise to both improve my muscle memory and practice my rhythm was to set up my BPM to automate over time in Ableton. My BPM first started somewhere in the middle 70s and slowly ramped up over time. I made sure my metronome was on and played the simplest kick and snare beat, just being sure to land on time. This helped me actively think about my rhythm at any given moment and ensured I wasn't off beat. Once I was able to perform this pattern without thinking about where my fingers should go, I added in a hi-hat on the offbeat and did the same thing. This is just one more element into the mix, but adds so much more variety, and now you can see how over time, this can evolve into something more exciting. From there, you could switch it up by performing a different hi-hat every other offbeat. Again, more variety, more complexity. Continue adding elements into the mix until you get something you're happy with. One thing you can consider to spice things up is you aren't limited to performing one sample at any given moment. It may be more interesting to play a cymbal at the same time as your kick drum, for example. This adds more complexity, but again, you just have to practice and practice and practice until it becomes natural. Now, this is only using one hand. You could throw another hand into the mix, either on your same sample pad or even the other one, your choice, to perform other elements. And this is where things get exciting, because as much as the term is finger drumming, you aren't limited to just percussion samples. You could drag in any audio file, which means you could be performing snippets of a song or actual audio samples of an instrument. Once you get comfortable with the process of finger drumming, you can cover or even create entire songs. And hopefully, the tips and tricks covered in this video will help set you on your way to going down that path where you will ultimately someday become a finger drumming master. So that'll do it for this video. If you enjoyed this tutorial or thought it helped in the slightest bit, consider subscribing to this channel. Your support helps me make higher quality content. I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Ooh, I like that Hercules controller.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of 2 grids. I'm not usually a big fan of like DJ equipment, and that seems like it's orientated towards DJs.
Yeah.
But wow, that would be useful having multiple grids like that.
Absolutely. I could see the use for that for sure. And even the one that I just showed before, that was it's just 2 rows of 4. So I mean, that's like, you know, half of one of those pads, you know, so it's basically, you know, a quarter of that whole layout. But, you know, you can see that what he was using there was mostly just, you know, 8 or 12 of the 16 or 32 buttons at any given time anyway, for the most part.
Well, and his point about like getting comfortable with the mapping, which there's no perfect one. It's really it depends whether you're like thumb orientated for your kick and which fingers you want to be hitting your snares with. Once you establish those, like the process he did to figure out and everything else, get comfortable with them. His advice about start with a slow tempo, use a click track, get comfortable with it, and then start to try to play like a live drummer.
Yep. And instead of like memorizing his layout or whatever, it's good to just start with that kick and snare and just kind of build out your pad from there to what feels right for you, for sure.
Yeah, and I love that he explained, you know, being an introductory into this kind of drumming approach, the difference between trigger and loop for a button, because my buttons can either be a toggle on off or they can be a trigger, and sometimes you're going to want one kind of button and sometimes you're going to want the other.
Yeah, I would usually see him as like a loop or a one shot, you know, and in whether, you know, as you're going to hit the button, like you just want it, if it's a drum sample, for example, like a cymbal or a kick or whatever, you want it to just replay the sample every time you hit it. So it would be, you know, you want it to just be once, not loop. So if you hold it, you don't want it to just sit there and keep looping, you know, so you want that behavior off, but you definitely want it so that you go ta 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 and you get the actual repeat of the whole sound.
Yeah, he made it a good point to remind you that you're not necessarily hitting a drum in some cases. You could be hitting an instrument note or starting a loop that you let play while you do drums on top of it.
Yep. I've seen people use like a drummer, for example, would have a pad similar to that, but, you know, built for drummers, so even larger buttons than what these have, and they would use it to trigger one shots. So they would trigger it for like a soundtrack in the background of a song. Like, I don't know, a Billy Joel song, for example, might have something in the background like a train horn that plays or whatever. There's some sound that they want to trigger that they don't have a keyboard player, and they just want to be able to tap and then jump onto the beat that goes with and go with it.
The cannons for those about to rock.
Exactly. Or Hell's Bells. I mean, yeah, there's a number of different different things that you might want to trigger, that if you don't have a keyboard player in the band, the drummer or somebody can have something that they can trigger something like that. But that's the behavior. So yeah,
and that's why I think today's really good drummers, they don't have to go out there with 100+ pieces like Pert used to. They can really go out there with a minimal drum set and one of these to their side, and all the drums I need here. And if I do need special effects and sounds or additional drums that I don't want to lug in a timpani, I'm not going to lug a timpani in just to use for a minute in a song.
exactly. And that's the thing is, even if you use an electric kit and a pad like that, to trigger anything else that you need, that's two outputs. So like, you're only having to deal with two different levels, and everything else is all sorted out within the hardware itself.
Yeah, an electric kit is actually a perfect complement to one of these because everything is being triggered and controlled, which he also made a point to tell people when you buy these controllers, they're called controllers for a reason. They're otherwise they'd be called synthesizers because when there are sounds in the machine, you're not just buying a controller at that point. You're buying a sound engine. But most people don't need to spend 5 grand on a synthesizer when these $100 controllers give you the same control.
Yeah. And there's so many good sound libraries out there. So I mean,
The one downside, you are dependent on a PC and software. You have a lot more options, but if you're really buying this to be say a stage performer, you might want to get the dedicated synthesizer because on stage, you don't want your synth crashing. And if your computer is part of your sound, fingers crossed that you got a computer that doesn't do that. And, Macs, I guess, I'm not a big Mac advocate, but if I had to deal with a computer on stage, I think I'd rather have a MacBook than a Windows alternative.
I only know of two of the bands that I work with have people who have computers on stage, both keyboard players, and they both, I want to say they're both MacBooks. So I think they are both in that same school that you.
It makes more sense because the machine has been built to be a little more ready for the stage, and they don't crash. Not to say Windows crashes all the time, but when you get into like performance heavy stuff, you really got to tweak your window machine out to make sure it doesn't pop up notifications like, "Oh, there's a Windows update. Hey, I'm in the middle of a song."
Can't you see I'm doing something here?
Yeah, Microsoft doesn't get it.
That's why you want the machine to behave more like a console or more like a dedicated piece of hardware where I want you to do this one thing right now, do it very well, and don't interrupt me with anything else until we're done. Like that's
yeah. There are actually some solutions out there that are like hardware virtual VST rack mounts where you can actually load the VSTs into this rack mount. It basically is a computer, but it's in a industrial rack, and it's designed to be minimal on the operating system. It just loads VSTs.
Right. It has one job.
Yeah, if I was a guitarist and I wanted to use all those great tones that you have now, and I needed to do it on stage, I'd rather spend a couple thousand to get a rack like that, which I know isn't going to crash on stage, than save a little bit and bring a laptop up and fingers crossed that laptop doesn't fall or
Yeah, that's the thing is you never know, and somebody can trip on whatever. And if, like you said, you don't want your sound to be dependent on the laptop. Like if the laptop was part of triggering something that's an added part of a song that you could do without, that's fine. You could still perform the song if the laptop's gone. But if you can't play your instrument without the laptop, then you're really hinging it all on that. So
Yeah, the reason why I bought the Roland is because I if I did want to play live, it has all the sounds in the keyboard. If I was to use a computer, it'd be for like these second controllers, and I want that special cannon sound or something. I'd bring the computer as a complementary sound, but not the primary sound.
Yep, exactly.
So that was great advice into getting into finger drumming. At Inspire Aspire, one we have is matter of fact, I don't think we have a freshie channel tonight. Because we have gone down drum rabbit holes,
We have.
and some of the ones that we're going to, they were there for our first round.
Yep, but always good stuff. Always good information to be had.
Yeah, it's why we're back.
That's right.
Oh, and speaking of, like, this is one as far as music channels, that my regular go-tos, Tatro is one of them. Reviews, news, advice on things, and in this case, when it comes to this kind of drumming, and he likes the Akai MPK, and the Mini is like super popular for its price. Everybody should have one. It's that cheap.
Yeah.
And Akai's pads get rave reviews. There's very few people who bitch about like the quality of Akai's drum pads. They've been making the best ones since the 90s.
Sure. So they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and the MPK software is awesome. You got a chance to see that Hercules software that they use there, and how intuitive you can just put your samples, say this pad's this pad's that.
Yep.
The MPK software, it's all about simplicity.
Also, the that little pro tip you gave about going down and changing the default behavior, that's a good pro tip right there. Like, it didn't look obvious right up front. Like, it's not on the main screen you're looking at. You have to scroll down to get to it. But knowing to scroll down to get to it could save you all that time of having to go in and manually change every time for each time you're doing it. So
yeah, the nice thing with this equipment is in the old days, I actually had to bust out a manual if I was dealing with my Roland. With these controllers, you don't really need to bust out a manual anymore. You just need to go to YouTube and search for that controller, and you will find tons of tips and tutorials on how to set up that controller.
Yep. One thing I like about the lighting controller that I use to control lights for live sound is that the manual is actually printed on the bottom of the controller. So if you just like flip the controller up, like it'll remind you on, you can set things like this, because it's so easy to control each of the different aspects. You're doing scenes and you're doing chases and things like that. So by programming things like that and just making it easy to hold this button, hold that button, boom, there's an element, and just stacking things together.
Yeah, if the important information or like a MIDI implementation chart, because sometimes you need those, if it's like stuck on the side of it or like on a little door right next to it where that's the perfect way to just always have the information ready.
Yeah, exactly. It's
So
the way to do it.
Let's see how Tatro gets the Akai to put together a beat for him. And for this one, this is not so much about the basics of finger drumming and what you need for software. This is more about how you get into making a song with this kind of technique.
Nice.
What's going on, everybody? In a recent live stream, somebody asked a really good question about basic finger drumming, where to start, how to understand the basics, and had my MPK Mini right there with me, so I decided to do a really fundamental breakdown for beginner finger drummers, people who haven't even approached the subject before. I break down rhythm, subdivision, really fancy terms, but in a very basic way. So if you've never even tried finger drumming or any of this stuff, I think this is a great place to start. If you missed that live stream, no worries. I live stream pretty often, but make sure you subscribe to the channel and you have notifications turned on because I do take questions from the chat. Only way to get your question answered is to actually show up and be in the chat live. So make sure notifications are on so you don't miss a future stream. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Techo, your electronic music mentor. All right, so what do we got here? We got our kick, clap, snare, another snare, some hi-hats, open hi-hat, 2 closed hi-hats, and an open hi-hat. All right, let's talk through some basic finger drumming and some patterns. So the easiest thing for you to do to figure out what kind of drum patterns you want is to really listen to some tracks that you like and figure out what kind of drum patterns they're using. I'm at 92 BPM, but I might bring that down a bit, right? Let me bring it down to 72. I could go really slow. We could break this down for real. We want to do a basic pattern. Let's do kick on 1 and 3, snare on 2 and 4. And if you're unfamiliar with like the metronome and all that, this high click at the beginning is the downbeat. That's a 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're just gonna keep in mind those cycles and the beats 1, 2, 3, and 4, beat 1 being marked by that high pitch click. So if I let that roll, I'm gonna just do a basic pattern, kick on 1, snare on 2 and 4, kick on 1 and 3. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That is your most basic pattern, but what if we add some more hits in there? 1, 2, 3, and 4. You notice that I say and there. What we are doing is dividing time into equal pieces. And let me see if I'll pivot to a way to show you that in Ableton Live, actually make a new clip. Do I know how to do that? Of course I do, right? All right, so in Ableton Live, we have beats, right? This is a clip here, a 1-bar clip. You can hear the click go as the line goes. We have beats 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can see it's 1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. If this was a 2-bar, if I extend this, okay, so if I manually extend this to be a 2-bar loop. Okay, now we have bar 2, that's what the 2 stands for, and then 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. Okay, hopefully this isn't getting too dry for you all. But as that goes on, it'll say 1, 2, 3, and so on and so on. The decimal points represent the beat. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated as we zoom in because you'll see more decimal points reveal themselves, but we're going to ignore that for now. But what I was getting to was the and. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. If we divide that again and split that into more equal parts, like basically drawing a line here and a line here and a line here, we're going to call that and. So we're going to call that and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. See, we're really just dividing rhythm over time. We're dividing up time into equal chunks. So as you can see, I started playing that on the hi-hat. So we can add a little more interesting thing to our very basic pattern, right? Give myself a little count in 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3, 4, 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you can see once your brain is working in those cycles and counting those beats, you can subdivide in your head. So not only do you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. But what if we add a little more interesting things into the kick drum, right? What if we throw a little and? Like this. 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And then it just gets even more interesting. And as I want this to be super basic, I don't want to go too deep into finger drumming today. But what it gets into is you can subdivide that even more. And then you can subdivide things in really creative ways, like with triplets. And that's a little bit more advanced for folks. But as you start playing with that rhythm, that very, very basic rhythm, and you understand really the core, strong beats and ands, you can start adding in things with more interest. Like instead of a kick, you can add an open hi-hat. Now, if you're practicing this, I'm at a very slow tempo here. You might even want to go slower. But as you're practicing this, bump your BPM up as you go. When you get really, really comfortable playing a very basic rhythm, bump it up 10 BPM or 5 BPM. So I just went to 82. So you can see with that snare, I was doing a fill. I was still playing in time, but I'm hearing that subdivision in my head. And I heard that fill before I played it. I imagined it in my brain before my fingers landed on the pads. As you get more and more into it, crank up that speed. Let's go back up to 92. I think I was getting a little off time there, but you get the point. One of the reasons that I put 2 closed hi-hats on here is sometimes it's a lot easier to play 2 pads like that than it is to just drill into 1 pad. And then also you can use 2 slightly different samples to add a variation to your pattern. Hi-hats can get very stagnant. So if we play that metronome again. So as you can hear that, like that's very, very basic. We just broke that down into a way that hopefully you can understand with subdividing beats. You hear those strong beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now divide that in half using the word and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So there's that. And then if we want to subdivide 1 further, this actually sounds kind of funny. We say 1E and a 2E and a 3 and a 4E and a. So we're going even deeper, adding more syllables in there, but hopefully that funny phrase and those syllables help you understand the subdivision of the time and helps you find a place for all these different hits in your beat. 3 and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3 and a 4E and a. So that was helping me visualize in my head that hi-hat pattern. You know, think about those things. Think about subdividing those beats, etc. Am I missing some questions? A couple of people said, yeah, use arpeggiator or use note repeat, which you could do. And what some folks are talking about, actually, let me show the controller, is that some controllers have a note repeat function that make this way easier. And I do use that on occasion. Basically, just hold the pad down and you can, play your beats. And something I also show off all the time is using an arpeggiator. I don't think that you should use this in place of getting better at finger drumming. I think that there are some things that I would rather play in and some things that I have no problem using a hi-hat for, especially a simple driven hi-hat pattern. So as you can see, I dropped the arpeggiator right on that closed hi-hat sample, and I can mess with the rate, right? So if I don't want to sit there and bang out that drum pattern, here we go. It's very, very simple. The other thing that's helpful for are like rolls that are pretty impossible to play. Not impossible, but like I'm not going to play a 30-second note like stutter like that live. So instead what it ends up looking like is this. instead of playing those patterns, you end up just holding the notes, which is fine. I'd use it for a lot of things, but not all the time. Sometimes I like to just play in all the rhythms, play in all the perks, and even if after I play in all that stuff, I might use a hi-hat loop on top of it anyway. All right, really hope you enjoyed that clip and that it was helpful to you if you're learning how to finger drum. If it was, please let me know in a comment down below. If there's other subjects you want me to cover in a future stream or a future video, I'd love to hear that as well. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, because it really helps the channel, helps get the videos out there. And watch one of the videos that's popping up right now, because there's lots more content where that came from on my channel. For now, thank you so much for watching. This has been Tatro. Have a good one.
Oh, that is why he is a musical mentor.
Yep.
Oh my God, you are fast!
Get you every time.
Quick draw McGraw there.
Because it seems to happen every time. We'll talk about that later too. We'll figure that out.
Well, you see why his channel, when it comes to learning something that I have a tough time with, the way he presents the advice, the and approach, always had a tough time understanding tempo and BPM, and the and thing never kicked in for me when I was doing music theory. It actually kicked in when I was like trying to understand vocalists and how, vocalists get their bounce, and it just clicks in once you realize like the and where it fits in a rhythm.
And the E's and the U's. Yeah, for sure. The one E and that whole thing, like once you get locked into that, I mean, you can't do it too fast. You're like, what like, it gets a little crazy.
Well, that's
idea
what
is to get used to it slow.
That's what I liked about how he started off slower tempo. Like he emphasized, like, I'm gonna start here, just like the last video, getting comfortable doing this. Don't go trying to be speed racer right off the bat. Start at the slower tempo, get to feel out the controller and its responsiveness. Once you do realize, oh, it is responding to me, gradually bring it up until you're getting that kind of speed that you want.
Yeah. One of the other big ones to take away from that is the programming of two buttons as the same thing, like kick one, kick two, and snare one, snare two, even if they're the same exact sound, because it's so much easier to go back and forth between two different buttons than it is to go back and forth on one button, whether it's with two hands or whether it's with one hand.
I've actually I've done that with my keyboard when when I have a part where I'm trying to play the same key and my fingers are getting in the way of them. I will split the keyboard and take the same note and bring it an octave lower and just do it this way.
Exactly. It's so much easier to do it that way. And that's the same thing with with finger drumming. If you're doing it from using a regular keyboard, is you can do the same thing, split, and have, both hands can have access to all the different notes. So you could have the same thing, even if they're mirrored, so that like the thumbs are both the kick drums and the index are both the snare, and you go out from there so that everything feels the same, when you're
He used the example of the hi-hat, which would definitely be one that you would want. But if you're a metal drummer, that bass, that double bass,
two hands, two fingers each.
Yeah,
a whole lot of drums.
It's 21st century metal now.
That's where you're getting into 64th notes and 122nd notes.
Yeah, and you notice how I love how he got in the examples of the arpeggiator. I didn't realize it was that easy on the MPK. That
the main thing is
makes me want one more.
Probably once you have it set for whatever speed, because that's, again, he has the click track in there already, so it's already set for that, and you're already locked into that speed, which is good. And then for the arpeggiator, it's just, do you want it once per or 10 times per or whatever? You just, you kind of dial in how much you want.
I would be using that for all those fancy ride and hi-hat things you hear nowadays.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to sit there and learn trigger my fingers. I mean, I might after 10 years get
It's
that
fun.
good, but if I can do that kind of hi-hat action that easy, the way he was holding that down while he was doing his kick and snare with the other hand,
Yeah.
I'm cool with that if it sounds the way I want it to.
Well, just like you were saying before, when it comes to MIDI stuff, if you have it where you're just holding a button and it's going to repeat, it's going to be identical the whole way through. So you're not going to have the nuance of hitting some harder or softer, a little sooner or later. Like all of that nuance goes away, which might be a good thing because sometimes too much nuance, it doesn't sound clean anymore.
I'm sloppy if I try to do something constantly for like a minute. If I had to sit there and do that kind of hi-hat action for a minute,
Well, even having like the two toms on two different buttons, just trying to go back and forth, it's not always, consistent. And you're trying to use two hands. You can bang on them, but it's not going to still
well,
sound quite the same.
and that's why he mentioned like tom rolls and things. I might use them for something like that, and considering how much work he does and how much he does this, I'd take his advice.
Yep.
He really is a mentor in this part of the music world.
Yeah, indeed. And again, those buttons also feel so good compared to like the little chiclet keys or even using a keyboard. It really does change the experience. And even if you've never been a drummer or a finger drummer, even just if you're listening to one of your favorite songs, try with two hands drumming on your legs. Get one hand to be the kick, one hand to be the snare, and see how easy it is for you to get just those two elements locked in, even away from any piece of musical equipment, just to get your timing down. And then if you're finding you can do that, then just you plug it in right here and you're good.
I would really love to see a MIDI controller like knee pads.
Yeah.
I want some knee pads, somebody.
Knee pad controllers, nice.
Well, this was at Tatro, and this is perfect lead in to our next one because I these are two that I would buy right now. Like if I want to add a nice little secondary controller where I can, the keyboard, it's not something that you're going to do big keyboard parts, but it's a good phrasing keyboard. So if you just need to hit a couple of notes or you want more drums, because those can be all different drums along with the pads. Um, these two are under $100, in some cases in the $50, $60 range if you shop around, and everybody should have one.
Yep. And to me, like you're saying, the phrasing, like to me, the melody writing, for example, is where it would come in big because it's a small keyboard, so you don't have a lot of range, but you can get your ideas down on it. And I would say even, I assume that you can program how much the pitch bend bends.
Yeah.
And if you were to say the pitch bend goes a whole octave, let's say, then as you're playing, you can play whatever you're playing, and then you want to go an octave higher, you can just roll that pitch bend up and play the same thing. And now you're playing an octave higher, or roll it down and play an octave lower. So you could actually extend the range of what's there on a small keyboard to be able to play a melody up or down, several octaves.
Yeah. Or if you happen to be a singer, you can use the auto tune in the vocator, hitting keys while you're singing, and that's the Black Eyed Peas approach.
Yep, exactly. Useful tools.
So Patrick Breen is our next video. This is a freshie channel.
Nice.
We had one freshie tonight, and it's because I really wanted to see the comparison between these two. They're pretty equally priced. Feature for feature, they're close. I mean, Akai is more industry renowned. They've been at it a lot longer, but these Arturias are popping up everywhere. They're popular as hell, and they get great reviews on their abilities.
Nice.
So he's going to look at them from this kind of, I want to be a finger banger, and this is like the cheapest way in.
Very cool.
friends. The time has come. Arturia's Minilab 3 versus Akai's MPK Mini Mark III. Personally, these are my two favorite entry-level MIDI keyboards, and they're the two that I see the most people kind of deciding between when they're picking out their first controller. So let's compare. I'm going to walk you through the different features of each of these MIDI keyboards, and you can help me out by letting me know in the comments below which one of these is your favorite. Both of these keyboards feature a 25-key velocity-sensitive keybed. And when comparing these two, you really are deciding between two really solid options. Akai's latest Gen 2 keybed was a feature they were really focused on improving, and they did a great job. These keys have a really nice feel. For me though, Arturia does have the slight edge in this category. Their high quality keybeds are something that they're known for, and these keys really offer a great playing experience. Minilab 3's keys are also about 1/4 inch longer and a fraction of an inch wider. The size difference is definitely noticeable, but the difference in key size really isn't the biggest factor swaying me one way or the other. If you are looking for the better entry-level keybed or keys playing experience, I would definitely check out Minilab 3. Akai's MPC-style drum pads are definitely an iconic staple in the beatmaker community. The 2 rows of 4 pads layout definitely has some advantages when you're finger drumming. It allows you to incorporate your thumb, as silly as that may sound, but it also allows you to hit different combinations of pads because they're laid out this way. The pads on Minilab 3 are much smaller than the MPK Mini pads, and they're also in this single row layout. And this single row layout definitely does change the finger drumming experience a little bit. This layout doesn't bother me, but I am still a little more partial to the MPK Mini's pad layout. Minilab 3's drum pads are RGB backlit, so you can change the color of each pad, which is fun, I guess. MPK Mini's drum pads are backlit, you just can't change from the red color. And of course, both sets of drum pads are velocity sensitive. Similar to the keys, both of these controllers have great drum pads, but if finger drumming is a large part of what you do, or one of the main reasons you are getting a controller, I would definitely check out the MPK Mini. Hey, if you're enjoying today's video, please hit that like button for me, help this video reach more people, and make sure you enter my Minilab 3 giveaway by subscribing to the channel and leaving a comment on this video. Thanks. Now, I want to touch on the mini displays here because these screens are going to get demonstrated further as we start to talk about some of the other features. Both of these screens serve their purpose as well, and they're really just designed to give visual feedback and readouts for whatever feature you're using on the keyboard. So if you hit a pad, you'll get a velocity readout. If you turn one of the knobs, the screen will let you know what you're controlling or give you a value readout. I do give the slight edge to Arturia in this category. The screen is just a bit brighter, and personally, I just find the font a little bit easier to read. Arturia's display also has some fun little animations, which is purely aesthetic, but worth mentioning. And you'll see more from these screens in the next few sections. Now, each of these keyboards have a built-in arpeggiator, which isn't going to be a huge feature for everyone, but it's definitely nice to have right on the controller. They're similar in the sense that both keyboards have each of the arpeggiator controls mapped to one of the 8 knobs. The MPK keeps all of the arpeggiator parameters on the screen at once, which just makes it a little bit harder to read, while Minilab 3's screen changes depending on which arpeggiator parameter you're controlling. MPK does have some ARP shortcuts mapped to each one of the keys. So for example, you could select the exact division, mode, octave, or swing that you want without having to cycle through those options with the knobs. So that's definitely a nice feature. For pitch and modulation, Akai has their 4-way thumbstick. I've said before, I don't have a problem with this thumbstick. I find it really easy and intuitive to use, but both pitch and modulation are mapped to the same control. So it is possible that you'll trigger pitch when you're trying to trigger modulation and vice versa. It's just something that you get used to, and I really don't find it to be an issue at all. Minilab 3 uses touch strips to trigger pitch and modulation, which are really simple and easy to use. Both keyboards also have octave controls. However, with MiniLab 3, you can use your octave controls to also transpose the keyboard. MiniLab 3 also has this hold button, which allows you to sustain notes similar to using a sustain pedal. And that button also doubles as a chord feature. So you can program a chord and then trigger it with a single key press. MiniLab 3 also has some transport controls. So if you want to stop, play, record, turn on cycle, you can do all of that right from the controller itself. Both keyboards also feature 8 endless encoder knobs, and these can be mapped to control different parameters in your DAW or in your software instruments. And MiniLab 3 has taken it a step further by adding 4 faders, which MPK Mini does not have. These knobs and faders also pair with this browser control knob to control Analog Lab and various different parameters in your Analog Lab presets. Now, on the back of the keyboard, MPK Mini features a sustain pedal jack as well as your USB input. MiniLab 3 also has a sustain pedal jack. It has a USB-C input, but MiniLab 3 also features this MIDI out port, which is one of the big differences between these two keyboards. So this allows you to control things like hardware synthesizers and drum machines with your MiniLab 3. And if you're just starting out, this feature may not seem like something you're going to use very often, but having that option and also giving yourself the ability to have this keyboard grow with you, so to speak, I think is really cool. Both of these have a very similar build quality. The housing is made of plastic. They have a similar weight. And of course, if portability is a key feature for you, the clear choice is the smaller, more compact MPK Mini. Prices tend to fluctuate, but at the time of shooting this video, these are also both similarly priced. MiniLab 3, because it just came out, is slightly more expensive, but I'll be sure to put links in the description below to the best prices that I can find. Now, MPK Mini comes in multiple different versions, and each version adds on some additional features. So make sure you check out this video right here if you are interested in going the MPK Mini route. And if you want a more in-depth look at MiniLab 3 and a demo of some of the features that we talked about today, make sure you check out this video over here. But thanks for hanging today, my friends. This is Patrick. I will catch you in the next video. Peace.
Oh, peace, Patrick.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great review.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
That's how I like my reviews, because I actually, I swear he sold both of them to me. Like, if I went into a music store, given that the prices that these are, I would have bought both.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the main thing. Like when I got the, which one was it? The Carbon, the C61. Like the main thing I wanted, like I didn't care about what was in it. All I wanted was just like it was a controller, and it had as many keys as possible. It didn't need to be 88, but I went with 61 on that one, and it was just just minimal, whatever. I just wanted to be able to control the instruments in the computer, and it was perfect for what I got it for. And then this one here has the minier one is the Axiom is more like the Akai Mini there as far as
and more modern. Like the Axioms are definitely. They're pretty modern and still in great shape. I've got some M audios that are from like 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
They're no longer good modern controllers. USB 2 can't get drivers anymore because M audio doesn't make them. So like you do want a controller with great support. Akai, you can't fail there. And actually the Arturia, really they're doing something right there. They have some unique features, which would be why I would buy both, because I like that joystick idea that the Akai has. But those finger sliders, assuming that they're responsive and they don't wear out over time, because you know how that can be.
Yeah.
That's an elegant kind of slider that I'd love to have something here that I can just kind of do that.
Yeah. And even the four-way joystick, if it was more like a laptop touchpad, for example, where you can hit the center and then up, down, left, or right from there to get the full spectrum of what you're trying to do, would also be another cool option I would like to see.
I actually liked what he said. You might get is you might shift pitch and bend at the same time, but at the same, I would actually use it for that because that's what DJs do. And
Exactly. If you go, slightly west of north, and you go slightly, slightly east of south, whatever, like you'll find you'll get that little bit of pitch bend along with exactly.
Yeah, yeah, if you really want to make it swoop and go in a
Go
circle,
all around. Yeah,
like
exactly. And that is, like you said, that's one of those DJ things that I remember even from in the garage band days. That was one of the controls they had in the bottom corner, is that same little square touchpad where you
yeah, see, and I have something kind of like that with the Roland. They have the V beam. It's a laser, and you play it almost like a theremin.
distance.
It'll read like your left rights, your ups, up downs, and it is a pitch bend, but it's a weird way to control.
Yeah. I would be hesitant about making that a way to do it also, making sure my hand's in the right position. I'd rather have a control that I can grab and do things with, or even the touchpad would be something I could get used to for sure.
Yeah. 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 I'm hoping to get my hands on that. You remember that one we saw like a couple months ago? Dennis Wong showed the video, and it was like this new controller that you put behind your keyboard, and you can use your hands to like conduct, and it supports gestures and hand reading.
What that one
That's
reminded
the
me of was
toy I want.
the Leap motion controller, or something that I got way back when it was a Kickstarter campaign. But the idea was it's just a small, I would say it's an infrared camera, but I don't recall exactly what the technology was, but a small thing you would put right in front of your keyboard, and you could do, like you said, gestures, and you could even make a keyboard in space where you could just hit, here and, click on things. But it's a little bit, it wasn't precise enough for me at the time, but they've had, a decade and a half or more since then to improve upon it. So I'm sure it's come a long way.
Yeah, the technology behind like virtual gestures or virtual keyboards, because they tried a couple of different approaches with lasers
I
to
remember lasers. Yeah.
put a keyboard in front of you, and I mean it worked, but not applicable for most situations. Whereas like music gesture control, definitely a lot of big possibilities there. What we saw with what Andrew did with it, he was like conducting the patch, and like just like a conductor would with an orchestra to a sound.
Exactly.
I want one.
Make it two.
And I want both of those, Patrick. Damn it. You're a good salesman.
Exactly. And yeah, like you said, they're not that expensive.
Yeah, that was at Patrick Breen Music over on YouTube. Glad we found that freshie. Awesome review. My favorite, like when it comes to gear whores and equipment, these channels are my go-tos.
Gotta love it.
And considering he's selling me on something I already want each one, it's the easiest job, because if I do buy either of those, I will go check you out and see what your prices are, and if it hooks you up, you earned it.
Exactly.
Now, thinking of the loop mentality, because now that you've seen that you can program a pad to loop, and how you loop with your beats, and how you add another drum gadget when you do have a looper like the RC series, he gives some good advice on how, if you've already got this like great looper and you want to be able to add good drums real fast, this shit it's cheap.
Exactly. And a useful tool.
This one's going to be coming from John Paul at John Paul Music UK. A lot of music channels tonight. All right, I'm gonna have Slither watch this one afterwards, because he's got one of those RCs.
I love the RCs.
Yeah, I would take one of those too if you want to throw that in with the other.
Yes, please.
With the RC600 and the RC505 Mark II, they have the same brain. This means that the rhythm system is the same, and you can create any rhythm you want to with the RC Rhythm Converter, and I made a video all about it, and that video is right here. However, what if you want to make a rhythm right in the moment, or you want to add something like a cymbal or a ride or some toms? You're either stuck with beatboxing or adding a drum machine, and I've seen people add things to their arsenal like the Hand Sonic, the SPD SX, the Elisa's Strike Pad, and loads more. But you've just spent a couple of £100 on this loop station, and have you seen the price of a Hand Sonic? Now don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing any of those drum pads, but if you only want to play a couple of things, it's quite an expensive accessory. I found a solution that will actually get you what you want, and not only that, it comes in at under $100, and we've even got a code, which I'm going to show you later, which is going to make it even cheaper. It doesn't take up much space, it's really easy to control, and what I'm talking about is a MIDI controller. In fact, a drum MIDI controller, and it's this. This is the Tempo Pad, and it's made by Synado. It's only just come out, and they very graciously sent me one a couple of weeks ago to test it out, and I thought, well, what am I going to use this for? And it hit me. Literally, we can use this for drums for the RC505 or the RC600 without having to take a big keyboard, and it's really compact and really small, but actually really powerful. Okay, so what we get with the Tempo Pad is 16 pads. They're velocity sensitive, and they're also RGB, and I'll show you that in a moment. They have two different kind of modes. They have a chord mode, and they also have a user-defined mode. There's 6 control buttons. There's fast rewind, fast forward, stop, record, play, and loop. They are all CC numbers as well. And there's some controls here to change how these pads work. I'll go into that in a minute. And finally, we've got 4 control knobs, which are endless, and they generate CC numbers. Again, you could program that up for MIDI. On the back here, we've got multiple ports. Starting at this side, we've actually got the USB-C port. This is a Type-C connection that you can connect to your computer. There's an on button, but there's also another USB Type-C port. Then there's MIDI out, which is a 3.5mm socket, and you get a 3.5mm to standard MIDI converter in the box. Finally, there's a Kensington lock if you want to lock it to a table or a surface. What's really nice about the back as well is there's these 2 ridges, as you can see right here, and they are quite cool for making it grippable and putting it on something. Now, in order to make this work, what I need to do is attach it to the mic stand. So what I've got here is the IK Multimedia iClip 3, and it actually normally holds my iPad when I'm gigging. So I attach it to the mic stand, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to attach it to here, and you can see there's little holders here on the corner, and it'll actually hold nicely here, and just hold this in place. So we just stretch this out, and there we go. It's holding it in place. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So that way I can actually put this on the mic stand, and it's really nice and tidy. So I've taken the camera off the stand so you can see what I'm doing. This is the Tempo Pad. It is now plugged in and on power, and it's connected to the iClip on the mic stand. So let's go around and have a look at the connections. So you can see here we've got the power connection that's switched on, and we've got the MIDI connection here, which is just here, and I've got a normal MIDI connection going into the RC600. Now you can see I've got the power cable there. That's actually plugged into a power box that's just down there, the little one that's flashing red. But we've got this on here. It's nice and tidy. It's on the mic stand. It's within reach. It's really cool, and it's connected to the RC600. Now I just want to talk about the pad for a second, and I've turned the camera down a little bit because it's got 2 modes. This mode is actually the user-defined mode, and all those sounds are coming out the RC600 and going into the speaker, but there's different modes here. So you've actually got a mode button here. If I press this, well, that's really bright, and you can actually go into what's called chord mode. But then if you go into the other mode, you've got different pad banks. You can see this one's red here. If we go across, and we go to the blue one, and I think everything ends there. Yeah, there's nothing above that. Think of this as octave 1, octave 2, and octave 3. So red is octave 1, which is at the bottom. The next thing you've got is you've got velocity type. Now if you go to the white one, it's at 127, so it'll play everything really, really loud. And then you've got different velocity curves. And you go to the green one. I like to have on the green one. I haven't actually set these up yet for MIDI, but I might set these up for things like velocity amount, maybe turn it down as opposed to using the velocity type, or I could use it for different things, maybe an LFO, which would be quite cool. I've turned the brightness back up again because we're only going to be using this. And this is actually set to MIDI channel 1. And I know by the drums is normally set to MIDI channel 10 on the RC600. So, for ease of use, because I'm not using any other MIDI whatsoever, I've left this on MIDI channel 1, and I'm going to change this to MIDI channel 1 from MIDI channel 10. However, if you've got loads of MIDI stuff going on, and you want this on MIDI channel 10, which is the default for any kind of rhythm stuff, then you can change this with the software, which you can actually boot up, which runs on both PC and Mac. Now, let's go over to this. Now, in order to make this work, what we need to do is we just need to go into Menu, go across one, and go into MIDI. Now, by default, you'll normally see this on MIDI channel 10. And all we need to do is just change that down to MIDI channel 1. Because I haven't got anything else by MIDI, then it doesn't need to be anything else other than MIDI channel 1. And then if we go up to here and start playing, it works. Now, the other thing as well is if we go back down to the RC600, if we come out of here, if we press loop and we go across one again, we can then get to the rhythm section. Now ignore the beats, all we're looking at is the kit, and right now it's on Studio Kit. Let's just change this over to something completely different. So this is the 808-909 kit, I hope you can see that there. So now, if we go up to here, so it's totally dependent on what you have set on the RC600 will determine what this does, because all it's doing is just triggering those kits. The last part of this is actually when you're playing, it goes into the loops. So there's just one thing we need to change on the RC600 to make the rhythm section loopable. So on the RC600, you just go into Menu and we go to Output. Then we go to Routing and we go to Input Stroke Rhythm. Go all the way to the very, very end and you'll see this says Rhythm Out, Output. We're going to change it to Loop. What this means is the rhythm section will still be heard, so you can still hear it coming out the speaker, but now what you can do is you can record it into the loops. Let me show you. And the best thing is, it works. Now, I said to you the best thing about this is it works with the loopers. It'll work with the RC505 and work with the RC600 as well. Of course, it will work with any digital audio workstation, and it'll even work with an iOS device as long as you've got the right connectors. It's super lightweight and it's ultra portable. And a lot of the other ones in the market will have USB-C, but they won't actually have a MIDI out. By supplying the TRS MIDI out, it opens the world up to a lot more things. And of course, being able to control everything with their really easy software, you can change what these do and how you want them to behave. But the other thing about this is the price. If I was to go and buy a hand Sonic, just Google it, just see how much they are. And don't get me wrong, you can do things with them like load up their own samples. They're an instrument in their own right. But all I want to do is just trigger the sounds from the RC600 or the RC505. I want it to fit in my guitar bag and not take up a lot of room. This fits that bill, and it means I can play the sounds from the RC600 at a gig and even put them into the loop. So if you go onto Senado's website, it's actually retailed at $99. But we had a chat with them when they sent this and said, look, let's do something for you guys. So if you put the word John Paul, my name, into the checkout, you're going to get 10% off. But also, if you go over to Amazon, it's retailed at $89.99. And they've done that deliberately because it's an introductory price offer. And on top of all that, they're giving you 12% if you buy it through Amazon. So what I've done is I've left the links in the description box so you don't have to go and find it. It's on my Throne page. It'll take you straight to the Amazon page. I'd like to thank Synode for sending this out to me. They're not paying for this review. My thoughts are my own, and they haven't seen this video beforehand. Now, keeping things lightweight, this is going onto my mic stand. And my mic stand is one of the latest mic stands you can get, which is the Gravity Stand's Travel Series mic stand. If you want to take a look at it, it's right here.
Dude, I can't believe how cheap that is for what it does.
Definitely. And again, it is just controlling or activating things from another device that you have there. But for what he's using it for, it is perfect.
Well, it's a basic MIDI controller. And for what you get for the grid and the functionality as a MIDI controller, the closest I've seen is the Novations, another one that Slither has. The Novation machines have all of that and they do have built-in sounds, like you can load samples into it,
Mhm.
but you spend a lot more than $100 to get that functionality. This is how you get the buttons and control them. Like you said, they're all CC controls. You can map them to anything.
Mhm. Exactly.
He
Very
had
useful.
he had those RCs that which have built-in drum kits that sound like real drums. Sending the MIDI triggers from this little cheap thing
Mhm.
can trigger those drums on the looper where he can actually loop them and build a drum beat like that.
Exactly. And the more, and seeing him actually build the loop like that is useful for people to see. Like that's how easy it is to just start setting loops up and, start getting started with, making your own rhythm section there, and getting something started.
He
Getting something
he
new.
he took his considerations on stage. Like he knew I'm going to be bringing this up on stage with my looper,
Mhm.
and you want something you can clip mount and like the size factor matters when you got to lug it up there.
And that's even where for a music stand, for example, some people singer, they want to bring a music stand so they can put it in front of them, whether it's to put the iPad on or paper music or whatever. But instead of having a whole nother stand taking up space in the front of where everybody there's a clip-on mic stand that I have, and it's a really small music stand, really small. It's only like a foot and not even a foot and a half across by like only 6 or 8 inches tall for the actual part of it that's the music stand, but then it just clips onto the mic stand in front of you so that you can just put whatever you want on it. It's a nice solid little base. You can tip to different angle and all that. But
Yeah.
not having to
The,
down there.
how solid it is, especially how solid the stand is key when you're resting things on it. If it's clipped in like a phone or an iPad off of
It's a solid
a
twisted.
little arm, I would love to have a stand on stage nowadays where there's a phone clamp, there's an iPad pod clamp, or iPad, and whatever the hell else you might like, a music stand. If
Drink
I want to
stand.
put
Come
sheet
on now.
music.
Got to have the drink stand on there. That's the important one.
Well,
But
yes,
also
the cup holder.
for those, instead of using the folding stands where it's like 3 legs at the bottom, I would go with one that we call it the frisbee, but the one where you've got a solid metal chunk at the bottom that's round, and the stand comes up out of that, because those are much harder to tip over in general because they're heavy. It's a heavy piece of metal on the ground that keeps it.
Yeah, but again, you got to lug that up on
Well,
stage.
yeah,
So
but it's not that bad. I mean, it's one piece, and then with that, once you got it planted, then anything that you are going to hang off of it should be fine. Even this, where you're going to be drumming on it and all that. And what I was saying before was that if you had this microphone that I'm talking into right now, if I had a drum thing hooked up to this mic stand, you'd be hearing, and you don't want that. So like you wouldn't want it to be the same mic stand you're using for or have active for vocals. But if you're using a lapel mic, for example, that'd be fine. It's all about what you're using it for.
hey, you're the guy who lugs the heavy shit on the gigs. So if you're cool with a heavy ass mic stand, we'll get them.
Exactly. And it's not even that heavy compared, but it does feel solid though, is the main thing. And if you're gonna have a drink hanging off it, I would go something like that. Same thing with a guitar stand. Like you can't even see it because it's off camera here, but I have the Hercules over here, the three guitar stand. So it's one stand that you can hang 3 separate guitars on, and they kind of all counterbalance each other because they're all hanging on a different side. But it's just a way to save space on stage where you can just put that between the guitar players and the bass player, and you could have 3 instruments hanging off it in one spot. Useful.
If you're going to put your expensive ass guitar on something, you want to trust it.
Oh yeah, I watch people take their expensive ass guitar and just lean it against an amp string side first, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Like it costs so little for a little stand. Just get the stand and put it on the little stand.
We might have to do a stand night and cover modern stands. We're going to call it I Can't Stand It.
There you go. I like it. Things I can't stand about stands.
Yeah. So at John Paul Music UK, very innovative way to solve, like, I need a MIDI trigger, cost efficient to trigger my looper so I can build beats. And it is pretty much the same approach that Slither took with his Novation and his 505.
Right.
His Novation does all the MIDI triggering, and sometimes he's using the 505 as the beat engine, the drum machine.
And I did like the behind the scenes look at the menus there, and drilling into this one and then going over to here. Like, even though you can't really see the menus that clearly on the video, just understanding the way their menu system is set up and where you would need to go to make changes like that to get it to go into the loop instead of out to the other side. It's good.
What I like with these videos where you see gear in action, it's like watching Mark Rebele like put together a song with one of these, and you see how they set up their channel one loops as they punch in like something, and then they start bouncing that loop that they just added, and they use that channel three loop to integrate other things. How they're using these multi-channel loopers, you can almost learn watching somebody use it.
Absolutely. I mean, just watching him, for example, seeing the where he would start a lot of times is like with a shaker, just a just a quick little shaker, couple bars, get that as the first thing, and then later on there'll be a part in the song where he just takes that element back out temporarily, and it's like a dropout in the song, and it's so effective, and it's for something that sounds like a whole different thing, but all he did was add a layer in and take a layer back out later. But it seems so complicated, and it's also how they layer.
Watching him do it, where he's doing some of it with his feet because he's got the 505 on the ground, and he's doing the other triggers with his hand. When Joe first got his, he put it all on the desk. Like he went the Mark Rebele approach, where it's like everything is in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And again, it's all about how you stack up those layers, what you're going to build as you're going, and in his case, also which layers you're going to then take back out at different times during the song. But great example, though, yeah. Those
and
awesome.
And the mentality that you have to arrange fast like that in a loop basement. We will have a loop night for sure. That's been a topic that has been discussed in the back.
Oh yeah. There's a particular video I want to watch for that as well. So I got one to add to the mix.
We're gonna start hunting now. So at John Paul Music UK, awesome idea with that looper. But as far as awesome ideas, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to play a drum kit that you didn't have to buy?
Yep. Or lug around?
Yeah, this is when the drummer, a roadie, has the easiest job.
Here's your sticks. Have a nice night.
And how they approach it, the technology behind this. I mean, we looked at several different types, some that were camera driven, like that Xbox 3D camera approach, where it's like we're gonna map out the human in front of us, versus like sticks that are actual controllers, and in those cases they were going through Bluetooth, which definitely didn't make them feasible as something useful. But what Samus is going to play here, just seeing him do it, and this is a real drummer, like he puts it through the test, makes me think this is the ones I would try.
And to me, it comes down to there should be an accelerometer essentially in the tip of the stick, because when you're imagining you're hitting something, like when the stick stops going down and starts going back up, that's a sharp change.
Well, like it's force feedback, like tactical feedback that makes me feel like I hit something.
Exactly. That would be awesome. Like that would be the best when they get that. But even just for now, knowing that, that's when the trigger will hit, like when it realizes that it changed direction, it's saying, okay, that's the spot where you said you want that to trigger.
If the stick has enough of a, like say, rubber coating that can shake, if the bottom of the stick can feel like you hit something, that little bit of tactical feedback is enough for, I think, like an air drummer.
Sure. I think so.
Now, if they can just make air guitar, then I am Eddie Van Halen.
Exactly.
So
Air
at
guitar's all
6,
about the attitude.
yeah, at 66, Samus is going to show the Aero drums, play drums without drums, the Aero Band pocket drum.
Nice.
Another gadget that's not expensive. Like I would try all of them.
Definitely.
What's up, guys? Today we're checking out the Pocket Drum 2 Plus from Aeroband. Oh, yeah. This little system is so effing cool, man. You can play the drums without needing a drum set. You don't even need electronic pads to hit. This is air drumming at its finest. The price is currently $179 USD, and you can save another 10% if you use the code SAMUS at checkout. I'll put the link below, all the good shizzle. Comes with the 2 sticks here. They look wooden, but I assume it's some sort of plastic. Feels good though. The weight feels good. It definitely feels like I'm holding a pair of drumsticks. We also have 2 foot pads here, one for the bass drum and one for the hi-hat control. But as you heard in the intro, we can also use the hi-hat pedal for double bass, and that was a big selling point for me. If it can't double kick, I don't want it.
I don't want it. Right.
Comes with this tiny little adapter as well. I would normally call this the module. You can use this to change the sounds by pressing the voice button here next to the volume buttons. And of course you could plug in headphones or speakers if you want. There's a 3.5mm audio output here. It says line out. There's also line in, that's the audio input, so you can plug in an MP3 player, anything else that you want to jam along to. But my favorite hole is this one right here. This is the USB-C charging port, but you see what that also says? MIDI out. That means you can hook this little guy up to your computer with the USB port, and then you can use any drum sounds you want. This was the other big selling point for me. So let's power it up. You just hold the sticks like this at a 45-degree angle, and then you press the power buttons. They even vibrate when you turn them on. Don't get any ideas. Press the power button on the module adapter, then we press one of the pedals, and they should all sync up automatically. It's great. I'm gonna hold the sticks 45 degrees again and just press the buttons quickly. That will calibrate them. Right in the middle, of course, we have the snare drum. We have the tom-toms. For the cymbals, we have the hi-hat. We have the crash cymbal and the ride cymbal. Of course, the kick drum as well. And on the module, you can cycle through the different kit sounds by pressing the voice button. Let's check some of these out. Uh-oh. If we want to change to double bass, then just hold both volume buttons for a couple seconds until you hear a bass drum sound. And now we have double bass. There's also an app you can download that pairs with these, and you can use it to help you learn how to play drums. Level mode is really cool because it gamifies everything, so it's fun to advance through the levels. There's song mode where you can jam to popular songs. Oh look, Taylor Swift! And then free mode just lets you play whatever you want. You can even jam on it without connecting the sticks if you want. But you guys know me, I'm really excited to try the MIDI output on this little thing, so let's plug it into the USB. Open my DAW, then we can select it as the MIDI input. And let's load up them sweet, easy drummer sounds. That's pretty much it, I guess. This is pretty damn cool, eh? Definitely one of the most portable practice solutions I've ever tried. You could pack the whole thing into a bag within seconds and take it wherever you want. And if you live in a small apartment, you don't have to worry about pissing off your neighbors with these, since there's not really any sound from an outside perspective. You're not hitting any pads. Link down below in the description. Go check it out for yourself. Remember that discount code and sex.
I will never forget sex, Samus. But thank you for reminding me.
Always a good reminder.
Hey, dude, tell me that's not a sexy piece of cheap gear. I mean, $179. Maybe that's expensive to some, but if that MIDI out that he's testing works as good as what he got there,
and just looking at the response, looking at the speed at which it appears to be picking it up, I mean, that looks like no delay. That looks just spot on. So I mean, that's
you know what sold me was his face. Like as he was doing, I was like, this is a drummer who looks happy with what he's playing with, and like I can't believe this works.
yeah. The tom is here. The other tom is here. And the other tom is over here.
The one thing that would be cool for me is if you could get like a light show or like holographic light to make it so you can see the drum, because it's one thing to know like right here is the toms, but I'm a visual like player if I'm playing drums.
In this case, this is for the drummers who have the muscle memory built in. So like they already, they could have their eyes closed and they know the tom is here and the snare is there, and like they know where their whole kit is set up. So once they're configured, once they've got everything dialed in, it should all be solid and just right there where they expect things.
And I bet you with that kind of spatial approach, it's more forgiving. So you might have been sloppy on a real kit, but with something like this, you could be smooth.
Yep. Definitely worth checking out.
As far as cool new technology goes, this one gets an A+.
I would say that the one thing, it's not a drawback at all, but just the one thing I would say is that for high speed stuff, like when you're doing like I imagine the bounce back, the actual bounce off the drums when you're actually drumming would be important for the speed of like really fast rolls. So I think like top speed rolls, you would probably need to have some kind of bounce.
Same problem on the foot side, because the one thing here that I'm like, that's what you're triggering your feet with. That looks like something that might break. Really,
he was stomping it pretty good, I will say. I mean, it looked like he was going right into it with the double kick. So
yeah, but again, if you're a drummer that's used to like spring action foot pedals, and you're going to this
chain drive,
that's like having a sustain pedal that I click to turn on and off versus an actual sustain pedal like a piano.
Sure, it's something that can sort of get it done, but yeah.
With foot action, like I like it to feel old school at least.
But very cool device though.
And that actually does lead into our next video, because when it comes to the foot action, especially with MIDI drums, the pros go with triggers that do actually use the same mechanics that the acoustic drums use. You still need a chain in some cases.
The chain drive, and going into usually a lot of times one of the mesh heads, kind of like the full mesh kits, because that's something that's you can really get a good response off of, a good bounce off of, but there's also minimal outside sound, which is good.
Yeah, and this one comes from the channel says it all at Electronic Drum Advisor. So, we are going to be talking a lot of different drums over the next couple of weeks, and this channel can't ignore it. It's in the name, and all the different digital drums that like I want to look at, not just the finger bangers, but the actual great kits that are like 500 now.
Yeah.
we'll have a whole episode on kits at
Mhm.
in your price range. And
Nice.
I mean, as long as you spend about 200-ish, because you can get used ones a little cheaper, but you start getting an actual digital drum kit now for 300.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to how the feel is and how comfortable it is and how it works with your playing.
Yeah. And if you're going to pick some foot triggers, which that's what this is going to show you, the ones that are serious. These aren't little like buttons that are going to break after 6 months.
Yep.
Although the chain ones always make me a little weary because you bring mechanics into a musical instrument and shit breaks.
Mhm. I think that's one of the reasons they go with chain, because chain is pretty strong.
Well, this kind of design is been tested. All right, let's
Doesn't make
see.
it squeak proof though. That's one thing. Like I remember certain Zeppelin songs. There's this one in particular where I can hear the squeak on the kick drum pedal on every single kick drum hit, and it just once you hear it the first time, you can't unhear that.
Yeah. Fortunately, his other drums managed to cover some of it
They
up.
did. And the song is still enjoyable.
Yeah. All right. So these are 3 different types of foot pedals that your digital kits should have.
All right.
This is a quick comparison of the different types of kick controllers that you can use on an electronic drum set. If you're thinking of getting a new one for your kit, then this video should be helpful for you. Okay, so first off, we have the standard kick tower like you see here. There's another version of that there, which is a little bigger. The one on the left here is a Yamaha KP65. That's a pretty affordable pad, and I think it works very well. It has, all of these pads all have a 1/4 inch jack output, and they generally work with most types of drum modules. This one I think is pretty good for its price. You can also get mesh versions of these, which are better, but they end up costing more usually. The one on the left here is just about big enough for double bass drum pedals, but you usually have to hit the pad a little bit harder because they are generally most sensitive in the center. That's why if you want to use double pedals, it could be a better option to get a slightly bigger pad. There's alternatively, you have an option like this. That one is an Avatar brand, which is a budget brand, which is from a budget electronic drum kit of theirs. But it is quite similar to the Alesis Stealth kick pad, as well as the Roland KD7. I used to own a Roland KD7, which was actually really good. So if you want to just use a single bass drum pedal, then this is quite a good option. You can also just get a pad like this, and the beater is usually angled in such a way that this should work for pretty much any or most type of kick pedals. So if you already have a kick pedal, then this should also work as well. And lastly, we have a simple foot switch like so. In general, these are the least responsive. These are generally the worst options, but they also tend to be the quietest. Kick towers are usually the loudest part of an electronic drum set, and these usually provide a lot more quietness, especially if you are living in an apartment or so. Although one thing to note is that Roland, I know at least Roland have much higher end versions of a foot pedal like this, which I have not tried, so that is just something to note. Okay, so hope that's helped. In general, this one is the most versatile. You can use it with double pedals. This one is the most compact option while still using a beater, and it's a pretty nice little solution. And this is usually the quietest option, but the least responsive.
Oh, that was helpful because Glenn's going with that third option. He
I was
doesn't
thinking
want to
about that.
make no noise.
I was thinking about that, but actually, I think I would go with the second option in this case
I
because
yeah,
the second one is quiet enough. Like the tower looks a little bit loud for me. That's more like these symbols here, where it's it's got that clack to it, whereas that small one, that stealth, that's probably
would you? The second one isn't the best choice if you wanted double bass.
Mhm.
If you want single bass, you're good with the second option.
I don't
But
think I would go with any of those for double bass, honestly, except the one on the right or the last one you went over, the switch. If you had two of those could that'd be fine. But on any of the others, like he was saying, you can't really get two beaters to hit in the sweet spot on any of those kick towers. So you'd really want at that point, if you're going to go for double, I would go for a mesh head already, just because I think a mesh head would distribute better and would get a better response out of both.
yeah, there are some like double bass exclusive kind of MIDI for drummers solutions. These aren't for them.
And again, some of them like the feel of that chain drive, like like you were saying, instead of that, if it is just a switch and it's extra quiet, that's great. But if it doesn't feel right when they're actually hitting the pedal, that's important.
But the switch approach is less responsive, which when you're trying to go fast, responsiveness is even more important.
And that's where again it comes down to the physical, with the physical beater going up and down, there's the momentum that it's carrying, and when it's bouncing off of the thing, there's the momentum it carries back with it. So you're feeling that in your foot. So you're actually getting the interplay back and forth, and that's important for a lot of that.
Yeah,
feel.
it was a tactical feedback, man. How the instrument touches you back sometimes is as important as why you touch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You know what you felt like with your first guitar?
I do.
I'll never forget. And as far as like feedback and impressive technology in the drum world, this is the one that like I've been waiting for digital drums to like do this, and go figure, Zildjian, they're the ones who would.
Looking for the hybrid.
Yeah. Well, this really is the best of both worlds, as close as you can get. And this channel, we went to this one in our first drum night. Every kind of review about every potential kind of drum, cheap, expensive, weird ass drums that come out of nowheres. At R David R. All drums, all day, every day.
Nice. That's the way to do it.
And look at some of the things he's looking at. It is another channel that like I get my drum fix from.
Go down the rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah, but he reported on the one thing I was looking for tonight, which is electronic cymbals, and these aren't your granddaddy's plastic bullshit. Like these are real cymbals designed to not make as much noise, but be the trigger that they need to be.
Nice. And feel right. That's the important thing.
Yeah, that's everything for digital drummers.
I am slightly nervous about this video just because I'm going in a little bit blind and really don't know what to expect. I'll explain more in a second. It's only like noon. I'm sleepy. I am in Norwell, Massachusetts, home of Zildjian cymbals. Also, sorry for the janky lighting. I had to take this lamp apart to get it bright enough. I guess I could open this a little bit more. Oh yeah, that's better. But they reached out and asked if I wanted to come by and check out a new line of symbols that they're releasing, which, spoiler, it's a little bit more than just a line of symbols. But as a lover of all symbols, I couldn't refuse. Also, this video is sponsored by Zildjian. I'm not a Zildjian artist, but they are sponsoring this video. But I kind of just assumed that this event would be about the Z customs, just because of the timing of those being released or re-released and the timing of some other factors. But turns out I was pretty wrong about that. So I finally learned the name, the alchemies, and again, kind of just assumed that they were E symbols, which, just like assuming last time, I was wrong, but only slightly wrong this time. Turns out, it's an E kit. I just can't seem to avoid E kits for some reason. So that's kind of all the information that I have at the moment. Let's go check this thing out. First, let's check out the symbols. Only after I figure out these headphones. Got the crash. Get right on it. And then of course the bell. And they're chokeable. It's a really quick and fast choke. Function-wise, these are 3 zone symbols. You got the bell, the bow, and the edge. All of the symbols have 360-degree triggering as well as 360-degree choking, so no matter how the symbol is rotated, it'll make a sound when you hit it, or it'll choke when you choke it, or just touch it. Plus, the choke delay time is completely adjustable. These are essentially just low volume symbols with a few little extras added to them. They're saying this is like a piezo pickup right there, and then there's like another trigger pickup thing over here, and then of course all that runs into the brain. Now the hi-hats, I have no idea how the hell these things work. They look pretty similar to the other symbols. They just got a bottom, obviously, and there's like a little rubber lip around that. And I think I broke it. I gotta say, these are very responsive and actually work. And you can see that these are either Cat 5 or Cat 6 cables, so these can move a lot of data. Which does beg the question, why are there so many 1s and 0s being moved around, and how exactly do these symbol triggers work? I really wish I had the answers, but I have no idea, and I'm really not smart enough for that to begin with. But I do know that the symbol trigger system is a proprietary algorithm-driven technology. I still don't know what that means. I also was wondering if you could take like an L80 China and swap over the sensors to it, but apparently the algorithms for triggering are unique for each size of the symbol, so it probably would act a little janky. But the good news is that Zildjian does plan to expand and put out Chinas and splashes and stacks and that kind of stuff. After all, the symbols are the main feature of this kit, and Zildjian is, you know, a little bit known for making symbols, so it only makes sense for them to go all out. I'll talk more about the symbols later. Let's check out the drums now. So on the kit, there are 3 zones for each drum. So on the snare, for example, just got a regular hit, got a rim shot, and then also there's a cross stick. Then on the toms, you got the head, the rim, and a rim shot. I kind of got distracted and didn't show that though. Pretty standard E-kit kind of stuff. We got mesh heads, little rubber rim. There are acoustic heads on the Rezo, so you could, you know, swap out the batter heads and make it an acoustic kit. All you have to do is loosen the screws to slide the sensors down off of the head, and then of course tighten them back up. That way everything is contained on the drum and there's no loose parts to keep track of. Pretty clever design. And one kind of cool thing about the drums is you can see there's a re-ring on the batter side, but if we flip it over, they actually cut a groove on the underside, and that is where the cable is run. So you really see nothing from the batter side, just the triggers. Pretty clever design. Looks like 10, 12, 14, 14, and then a 20-inch kick. And this is like the big kit, also known as the Alchemy Gold EX, coming in at $7,000. These are 7-ply North American maple shells and a foundry black gold shimmer gloss lacquer. That's a mouthful. It looks a little green on camera, but there is a nice little hint of bronze in person. And this configuration comes with 14-inch hats, 16-inch crash, 18-inch crash, 20-inch ride, 3 boom stands, 2 tom mounts, and the stand for the module. And then there's also 2 more configurations that they're offering. For $6,000, there's the Alchemy Gold. This is a 4-piece with 3 cymbals. The shells are the same construction and have the same finish as the bigger EX kit. 14-inch snare, 10-inch tom, 14-inch floor, and 18-inch kick. 14-inch hats, 16-inch crash, 20-inch ride, and for the hardware, it comes with 2 boom stands, the tom mount, and a module stand. Then this little half-shell kit is the Bronze EX, coming in at $4,500. These are a basswood poplar hybrid shell and come with a matte black wrap. 10-inch toms, 12-inch floor, 14-inch snare, and a shallow 18-inch kick. 14-inch hats, 16-inch crash, and 18-inch ride. It also comes with 2 boom stands, 3 tom mounts, and the module stand. And of course, each configuration comes with the module, which is the same across all 3 setups, I should say. Plus, they all come with the necessary cables, a drum key, and a pair of Zildjian E-sticks. We heard the acoustic sounds of the cymbals earlier, now let's hear the acoustic sounds of the drums. Now, I didn't go too crazy into the module just because my time was a little bit limited on the kit, but all the sounds on this kit are real drums, real percussion instruments, and guess what? A bunch of real Zildjian cymbal samples. Which means no crazy space banana alien laser kits. It comes with 20 preset kits loaded onto the module. There's a built-in metronome with plenty of adjustability. You can see whoever was using the kit before was practicing their 7 grooves at 167 BPM. There's an onboard mixer where you can pan and adjust the levels of the drums and cymbals, plus you can change the ambience level of the kit. And of course, there's plenty of storage for you to edit, customize, and build and save your own kits within the module. Okay, this screen is kind of hard to film, but if we go to edit, we can change all of the sounds. So we got the hi-hats here. Ride, try a 22 K-Con. It is pretty intuitive and easy to navigate. Also, it is a touchscreen if you couldn't tell, but it is a super simple and straight to the point module as far as its features and functions. The way I've been recording the drum audio for this video is out of the 2 main outputs into a Zoom recorder, but there are 8 individual multi-outputs, so you can track and record things separately into an interface, for example, or send those outputs to the front of house if you're playing live. Then there's MIDI in and out, which also works through the USB-C port, so that's just another way you can record. You can record all the MIDI data onto your DAW, and then use whatever sample libraries and sounds you feel like. There's an 1/8" aux input, plus you can also connect via Bluetooth if you're trying to jam to some music on your phone. And as far as the trigger inputs go, there's 6 drum inputs and 6 cymbal inputs. So in the end, this kit feels super solid, which honestly I have to credit to the cymbals. Ultimately, I would say that these cymbals actually feel like all of these cymbals. One of the biggest downfalls of E-kits is mainly the cymbals, but especially the hi-hats, and just having cymbals that work is a nice thing, but having cymbals that feel good and respond in the way that acoustic cymbal responds makes this feel like 1,000 times better and actually feel like an acoustic kit. It's one thing to watch this video and see the kit, or watch me play it, or watch someone else play it, but to sit behind the kit yourself, you really do feel like you're playing on an acoustic kit. As someone who's played a handful of E-kits, probably the biggest thing about them, the biggest turnoff of E-kits is the feel of them. And over the years, so many companies have kind of like innovated ways to make, the drums feel good and feel natural, but cymbals have kind of always been like the struggle point. So it only makes sense that it took a cymbal company 400 years to figure out how to do it right. Okay, I'm back home. It's been a couple days, so my brain has had time to process everything, but you really don't understand how important the feel of a drum set is until you play one that doesn't feel very good. And in the case of E-kits, where a lot of times they're used as a lower volume option for practicing, the feel becomes even more important. I'm sure everyone has experienced pad hands before, where you play on a pad for like a week and you're like, yeah, I'm killing it, I sound great, and then you sit behind a real drum, and then all of a sudden your tone and sound quality is just gone. So feel, along with the associated proper sounds, is kind of important. I can probably count on one hand the number of pro level E-kits I've played on, but the Alchemy definitely has the best feeling cymbals, and I really don't want to repeat myself, but they really do feel and act like real cymbals. So major thanks to Zildjian for having me out. If you want to check out the Alchemy for yourself, you can follow the links down in the...
Oh, I'm following. Especially when we go into E-kits, because, dude, did I not tell you the testing he does? And this is a drum wizard.
I even love the split going through the here's the acoustic sound of what it sounds like in the room, and then diving right into here's what it sounds like through the actual module, where you get really the big difference. And that's here's what it sounds like to everybody else in the house, and here's what it sounds like to the person actually playing, and it's a big difference.
Yeah, I went into this for a cymbal video, and I came out buying a $7,000 drum kit. Glad. I would buy one. My first $7,000 that I've got to spend.
Yeah.
Zildjian is doing something right about like where they're moving. They were always the cymbal king.
Mm-hmm.
If they're gonna build a drum kit that's never been done properly before, doing what they're doing and taking care of the cymbals, they will have the most natural drum kit of the 21st century.
Yeah, and
Keep
just
it
watching,
up.
and like you said, the way he was testing it, the way he was putting it through its paces, really, it managed to, make it shine even more, like showing how quickly it's chokeable and how, how it sounds when you're, and get each of them.
He tested everything that an acoustic drummer wants out of a digital kit. like it, they want that feel, they want that sound. If they don't want to make a lot of noise, I was impressed. You might wake up some of your neighbors, but
That's
hey, if you
that's
jammed,
they can forgive me for that. That's okay. It's quiet enough. Let's put it that
it's for cymbals like that, it's surprisingly quiet. The cymbals did not really like sound loud in the room.
way. But they probably feel quite natural because of the fact that you are striking metal. So
But they have a fraction of the metal they normally have. All those holes, like I'm a little concerned that that kind of design. You know what it's like to crack a cymbal. I've seen drummers cry because their fucking cymbals like cracked.
yeah, and this is it's a lot of holes in a cymbal, but at the same time, I think that the main idea is that just kills the vibration from going all over the place and ringing in the room
it,
as much. So it really,
it's part of the dampening
yeah.
design.
And
Yeah.
it's designed to be struck. So I mean, it is drums and cymbals. They are meant to be hit. So they don't have to be. They don't look like they're super fragile in that way.
The way they're actually mapping the MIDI interaction, it's not just around the rims. It's like the design of the cymbal. We're getting triggers here, we're getting triggers here, and that's
Remember when
what
we?
that's what I want out of my digital cymbal.
Yeah, it reminded me of looking at the sensor that it had on the underside of the cymbal. It reminded me of one of the things we saw some time back about a drum kit where you could make it on like a plastic furniture table, like a plastic table from patio furniture, where you could put the sensor on it and you could just draw like a spot with a Sharpie, and you go, okay, that spot, and you hit that spot, and you're basically telling the brain, okay, that's going to be the snare, and then this one over here, that's going to be the tom, and this one over here is going to be whatever. And based on the vibrations on that piezo pickup, it can tell the difference between you hitting it here versus hitting it there versus hitting it here. So you can program your own spots on that kind of thing. So.
Does it do it like those snark tuners? Like it's just
pretty much
connected and like, oh.
It can tell the difference between the vibration of you striking it here and striking it there and how hard you're hitting it also. So it was able to, pull all that info in. But same idea, but this is obviously like way upscaled from there because, at that price point, that's, it's obviously not an introductory piece of gear, but at the same time, it's got some serious features.
No. I started with the cheapest shit I could find. And this is like that. Hey, Santa, I've been really nice this year.
You better be really, really good to get that.
Well, I will become really good. I feel like if I was ever going to be a drummer and I want to take the natural approach, that is the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and even the brain unit, looking at the main module, it looks very solidly built. I mean, as it should, at that price point. But it just looks
well. It's a Zildjian. Have you ever come across a Zildjian cymbal that even when it was beat up, like you look at it with honor? You took a beating.
It's just that I never would have considered, or I never would have thought of, what their designs would look like for a module like that, because of the fact that, a cymbal itself is a very different thing design wise from, the module.
I never really thought of them as a drum company. I thought of them as a cymbal company, but this shows they are a drum company.
400 years in the making.
Yeah. Not that long by like drum standards. We've been banging on shit for probably tens of thousands of years.
And they make some of the best stuff to bang on.
Definitely looks sexy. That was the sexiest piece of gear I have seen all year.
Yep, indeed. So what do we got up for tomorrow?
Well, we got some WAG. We got some WAG review, some songs that like by midnight. That's when we're gonna gather up the numbers. So in the description, all the tracks are there. The next 24 hours, it's on you.
Get the likes in there. Yep. Got to do it.
And then Saturday night, we should be announcing and actually round 4 drawings. So this one I've been I've been watching all season.
Nice. It's a cliffhanger. Tune in Saturday. We'll see what we get. But we found some good stuff to look at this Thursday. So we will see everybody again next time. Glad we found a new channel and some old friend channels. We'll go back and forth.
Yeah. Oh, look. Oh.
You're over there.
But we're the same size.
Well, there you go. Now, if I'm looking over here at the screen, I can see you. That makes sense. But thanks, everybody, for coming out. Always a pleasure.
Oh, and there will be more drums to come.
Yes.
Kind of in a drum phase.
That's good. You know, we got plenty of things to look at. You know, again, the chiclet keys are one thing, and then going all the way to the other end of the spectrum for the really nice Zildjian cymbals over there.
Oh, and I want to talk to the drummers because we got a couple of them.
For sure. See what their opinions are on watching a video like that. Again, putting it through its paces and the types of things that he chose to play to test the kit out. That's important stuff too. Just the kinds of things that, like, if you're going to go hop into a new kit somewhere and just try it out, you know, what are you going to play? Figure it out. Have a little thing put together.
And if you could build your ultimate drum kit, what would you buy?
Yeah. Buy or make.
Oh, that's even better. Because I feel like I do have to build some of my instruments.
Now, drums could be particularly tricky, but at the same time, if you're just trying to build something to hit that sounds good, you know, you can grab a 5-gallon paint bucket and try that for starters.
Actually, I almost put a video in that showed a guy who built a drum kit that technically cost him nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't have to be expensive to sound good.
Well, it probably ended up being expensive because he got a little crazy, but at the same time, nothing that was expensive to get, expensive to build.
Right. A labor of love.
So we'll be back tomorrow night with some WAG results and last moment feedback.
Get those likes in while you can.
Glenn said so.
That's right. It's a directive. Thanks, everybody.
Night.
Next time.
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and MIDI too. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rev. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking